Bonjour à tous et à tous, on se retrouve pour ce deuxième épisode du Let's Play de The Stanley. Attendez, comment il s'appelle déjà? The Stanley, quoi. Du coup, je vais re-rentrer l'heure de. Et là, je vais mettre 9 heures. Confirmé. Ça fait bizarre un peu. Attendez. Oh non, ça recommence la partie. Bon, bah, c'est pas grave. Avant de commencer, est-ce que je peux dire quelque chose? Merci d'avoir vraiment réglé l'heure les 2 fois où vous avez lancé le jeu. Tant de gens ne prennent pas cette étape au sérieux, ils laissent une heure réglée sur midi et basta. Mais vous avez pris le temps d'indiquer une heure et je vous en suis reconnaissant. Je sais ainsi que vous vous souciez de votre expérience, votre attention est focalisée sur le jeu. D'ailleurs, je n'ai aucun moyen de vérifier si l'heure que vous avez entrée est correcte. Je vous dis, je vais vous dire, nous allons passer un marché. Puisque vous faites preuve de tellement de bonne volonté, la prochaine fois que vous lancerez le jeu et verrez cet écran, vous n'aurez qu'à saisir votre heure préférée. Allez, choisis l'heure que vous voulez, même si ce n'est pas la bonne heure. Mais vous l'avez bien mérité. Sur ce, je vous laisse accéder au jeu. The Stanley Parabole Ultra Deluxe. Il y a les crédits? Wesh. Bon bah du coup voilà. Est-ce que ça me remet au même endroit ou ça recommence vraiment la game?
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a...
Ok. Ah ouais, non, ça me remet depuis le début, c'est relou.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley
Je vais
decided to go to the
prendre à
meeting room.
droite
Perhaps he had
pour
simply
le
missed a
premier
memo.
choix. À
When
droite, j'ai
Stanley
dit.
came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Voilà.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few... But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
J'ai fait l'erreur d'aller là au milieu et de rentrer là-dedans. Je peux continuer là-bas, mais ça m'amènerait vers la gauche. Du coup, on continue tout droit.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Hé, oh! Il m'insulte le narrateur. Je vais le retrouver, je vais le boxer, il va un J'ai. C'est chaud, quoi.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Ah, je vais le fumer, ce narrateur. Je vais rester sur mon truc, cette fois je vais pas faire le pitre.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ça le chien, le narrateur.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing in your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Pour elle? Qui elle?
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life.
Hein?
She's been waiting.
De quoi? Qui attend? Elle attend où? Est-ce que c'est là? C'est trop flippant, frérot. C'est cool, c'est... Ouais, j'ai fait tout noir.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this.
Si, wesh. What the fuck, man?
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and
Mais je
tell
suis
me all
célib.
about...
Qu'est-ce qu'il fout? Astaghfirullah.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you?
Je
I'm
vais
trying
te
to make
tuer.
a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see
Je
something.
peux bouger.
Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Quoi? Bonjour, employé, nanana.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him.
Hey.
Every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Pour dire à votre femme que vous l'aimez.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is
Non,
pushing the same button
le
he
chien, il est en
always
train de...
has. Nothing has changed.
Il est en train de
The
m'avoir.
longer he spends here, the more invested he gets. The
C'est
more
pas chez
he
moi.
forgets which
Non,
life is the real
ça tu
one.
me le ramènes.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Ok, je le fais pas. Non, vas-y, je le fais pas. Bah écoute, j'essaie de faire confiance au narrateur là pour le coup. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire? Eight days. Je laisse passer un peu le temps. Mais il se passe rien en fait. Bon bah allez, vas-y.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Vas-y, je vais attendre. Vu que j'ai pas envie de le remettre, vu que j'ai envie de le remettre en question.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Bon bah du coup ça a tué mon perso je crois là, non? Je sais pas. Ok. Bon là cette fois je vais rester tout droit tout droit.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Droite. Il n'y a pas d'autres portes. Ça, il n'y a pas les autres portes.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Ok. J'ai cru avoir vu un truc bouger, c'est pour ça. Wesh. Attends, ce truc me dit quelque... Ah non, ça, je mets...
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Ok, je franchis la rouge. Je te fais confiance, narrateur, désolé.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
La porte? Ok. Ah, vous voyez? Me déçois pas, narrateur.
What do we want? What are we looking for?
Wesh. Merci, narrateur, désolé, je te ferai toujours confiance.
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
Aussi. Ah, waouh. Waouh, est-ce que c'est beau. Par contre, je veux bien ressortir. Oh non, j'ai rien dit, c'est trop beau. Si ça, c'est pas beau. Pourquoi ça... Je sens... Non, je sens une douille. Je sens la douille. Narrateur, je vais te tuer si tu m'as fait une douille. Bon, bah, moi, je pense que je vais y aller, hein. J'ai un petit concert, moi, à faire.
No, wait. Where are you going?
What the... Wesh.
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
Tu veux que je retourne là-bas?
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
Là, faut que j'y aille.
No. What did we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here. You heard me before, didn't you? You will die. What about this isn't getting through to you?
Mais j'ai envie d'y aller, mais j'ai envie de faire confiance au narrateur aussi.
You are going to stay here, aren't you?
Et est-ce qu'il va se passer encore un truc de dingue là avec la porte? Elle va rechanger, vous pensez? Pourquoi est-ce que je l'écoute en fait? Non, je vais pas m'imiter avec lui, frérot.
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Oh, il y a une porte? Ouais, hop là, t'as gagné, m'en fous le narrateur. Ciao!
No! Oh, thank God. You lived. You had me worried there for a moment. No. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
Oui, juste parce que c'est drôle, miskin.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
Non.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
C'est quoi, je me tue une dernière fois, puis après je vais aller voir tes lumières, promis.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask.
Mais non, non, je voulais rigoler,
You
chef.
wanted to make a choice after all. Well, do you actually want to stay alive? Or are you just teasing me?
Tu vois, regarde. Oh non, désolé, j'avais loupé un... Désolé, t'avais raison. On a loupé le spectacle, je crois.
I wanted us to be happy here, Stanley. I really did. I wish I still thought that was possible.
Non. Mais du coup, je suis bloqué ici. Cool.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Quoi? Wesh? Ah, les gars, là, ça m'a fait un peu mal au cœur pour lui, mesquine. Bon. Bon, là, je vais essayer d'être un
All
peu
of
plus
his
sympa.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Je vais toujours prendre celle de
Stanley
droite.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Là, je vais continuer par le
By
couloir.
the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Est-ce que je continue tout droit, chef, ou
And
je
so
fais quoi?
he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Vas-y, je te fais confiance. Ouais, donc c'était bien ça, wesh. Ouais, c'était bien
Yet there
ça.
was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Non, c'est trop creepy. What the fuck,
But
frère?
Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
C'est trop flippant, les gars.
I speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley.
C'est quoi? Ça fait quoi si je fais recommencer le jeu? Loading. Ok, donc je reprends littéralement depuis le début. Donc là, faudrait que je monte en haut. Mais le problème, c'est que je sais ça fait quoi si je monte en haut. Et c'est assez flippant quand même.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Les gars, j'ai jamais vu cette pièce avant. Là-bas, c'est trop flippant. Du coup, je préfère. Hein? Mais c'est quoi ces papiers lumineux? Alors non, là. Ah oui, bah ça doit peut-être être le... Ah mais oui, c'est le dernier étage, il me semble. Non, elle est hop là, non. L'ascenseur, il est trop flippant.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Hein? Mais ça faisait pas ça?
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward
C'est
into
parce
the
qu'on va.
opened passageway.
What? What?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Dernièrement, dans le dernier épisode, j'avais fait échapper, mais du coup, ça avait tué le narrateur miskin. Je crois que je me suis un peu fait cacaroter.
lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
What the fuck?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Moi, j'avais pas
Here
vu.
was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Alors là, il est temps pour moi de s'échapper. Attends. Qu'est-ce que ce bouton? Ah, je crois que j'ai une idée. Ah ouais, non, mais c'est... Ouais, non, c'est pas cool, les gars. J'aurais dû... Ouais. Ah, j'ai le seum. Bon, c'est pas grave, je recommencerai après. Du coup, là, je vais avancer. J'ai... Attends. Comme par hasard, ça marche pas.
And when at last he found the source...
Qu'est-ce que j'ai fait?
blackness, and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go.
Waouh, le vrai
No
monde.
longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Non, je retourne en fait là-bas. Il n'y a plus rien à faire. Tant pis. J'aurais bien une solution, mais ouais, non.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen.
Comment ça, c'est ainsi que les choses devaient se passer?
And
Je sais que c'est faux.
Stanley was happy.
Eh ouais, je suis ouais. Bon, bah je pense que je vais arrêter l'épisode de là. Merci d'avoir regardé, je vous dis à plus. C'était les Kings.